Thanks. So nice of you to be here. I know, we make these things compulsory, so I just want you to know I appreciate it. Your busy lives, your complex lives. Family life is very complicated, and I really wouldn't dare to ask for an hour and a half of your time if I didn't think it was very important and important to your ministry and leadership in your children's lives. And so I appreciate your being here tonight, and God bless you. And I also am aware that there are some of you that may have had a second grader in First Communion last year. Is that true? Does anybody have a second grader in the First Eucharist last year, not this year? Another one, no, in this parish. So that you had participated in the second grade parent conversation on the same topic. I just want to assure you this is not the same program, but so I don't want you to be feeling like, oh my God, here we go again, I saw this last year. Our intention was to only have people participate in this particular event if they have never had the experience of these talks. And the talks are for our benefit as a church and our benefit especially, as I said, of our teenagers. So, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing your children to Christ in the church. What I'm hoping to accomplish in these next, I guess we're down to 80 minutes. The next 80 minutes is these four things. So maybe you can help me be accountable to that. To affirm the powerful role of parents in the handing on of the Catholic faith. To build up an appreciation of Catholic faith at home. And to clarify the faith of parents. That would all be all of you. And to promote the essential practice of sharing faith in the Catholic household. So that's where we are headed, and I'd like you to join me as we begin this. Parents are important. I know this might be a shock to some of you. Maybe it's obvious to some of you. But the sociologists are telling us that Catholic parents, or parents who are religious, can be persuaded by the reaction of their children, by the choices of their teenagers, by the attention span of their teenagers, and by their rolling eyes of their teenagers, that what you say as parents and what you do as parents is of very little interest to them. Matter of fact, I think they work overtime to convince you that they really don't care what you have to say, what you think of their hairdo, what you think of the shoes they want to wear, what you think of their friends. So, I mean, it seems to me to be a general principle about teenagers, that they really don't want to, they don't give any indication that you are important to anything other than their physical survival, As long as they have something to eat, some place to lay their heads, and some clothes to wear, you can keep the rest of it to yourself. Thank you very much. This is probably the most, maybe the greatest thing that I could say to all of you, and what the sociologists of religion have pointed out to us, that when the truth be told, when they get them away from you, and they ask them what is the most important influence in their lives, it is you. It is you. Now, I know my sister has 4 grown children, and I don't think any of them have yet admitted to the fact that what I just said to you is true. But that might be an encouragement that some of you in the room tonight may have needed. When we ask them away from you and away from your attention and away from their friends and away from their brothers and sisters, everything that you say and everything that you do is the greatest influence in what they believe, what they think, what they say, and actually what they end up doing. So I didn't invite you here to put a big burden on you, but welcome to parenthood. This is not the first time someone in the church has said this to you, because I'm aware in the baptism ceremony, the parents are identified at the very moment of baptism as the first and the best teachers of their children. So, and then the prayer goes on to say, by what they say and do. What they say and do. So this is your vocation. I am most humbled and impressed by the dedication and the love and the hard work that parents perform in the church. You are really doing the heavy lifting in the society and in the world and in the church. You are raising the next generation of men and women for God and society. And it is all on you. So please know that you are the object, and that is the object of my daily prayer, and it is, in a sense, the dedication of my life as a minister of the church, is to support you, to pray for you, to participate with you in the sacraments, to share the Word of God with you, to encourage you in doing this most important work. Okay, now that you have the quiz in front of you, would you please, could I have a copy of that quiz? Thank you. Would you please do me a favor? And we are going to take an abbreviated format of the quiz in front of you. Don't be afraid. You cannot flunk this quiz, by the way. So if you would not mind, would you please answer question number 1? Oh, you're going to answer a +2 is I strongly agree. +1, I agree. 0 is I am undecided. -1 is I disagree, and -2 is I strongly disagree. So it's important to put the plus number or the negative number. So if you would answer number... Thank you very much. When you're finished with that, if you would take the right-hand side of the paper and fold it over and bring it up against the numbered lines, so you can see the front page. And then if you want to, you can put your answer to number 1 in the box marked number 1. Same thing with number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. Is this making sense to everybody? Okay. So you're going to transfer your answers from answers to numbers 1 through 7 into the boxes 1 through 7 on the back score sheet, if you will. All right. Once you do that, I would ask you to identify which of the answers was your highest score. In other words, +2. And if you would notice, go across the grid to the right and see what is the language that you have scored the highest in. So you see there are service, holiness, devotion, community, morality, teaching, and worship. If you're confused by what I'm saying, I have a picture up here on the board. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you see across there which language group you are landing in. And I'm thinking, if you are like most people that end up taking the whole questionnaire, you should have 1 or possibly 2 that you have scored as a +2. All the others are going to be maybe grouped and even far away at the bottom. Okay? The reason we're doing the abbreviated form, what you're welcome to do when you go home is you can answer all the questions, and then you can fill in the box, fill in the grid, and then you're going to add all the numbers from left to right, positive and negative numbers. I know this can be challenging for those of us that didn't make it in the first math group. But you can get a better idea, and maybe it would clarify. It'll make more distinction between the the languages. This idea of a Catholic faith language is just something I wanted to put on your table before we go through some of these reflections this evening. This came out of our Parish Pastoral Council. Parish Pastoral Council has been working for the last 6 years in trying to help us as a parish community to share our faith. To share our faith in the form of an invitation to others to believe. And one of the members on the Parish Pastoral Council said, Father, it seems to us that we as Catholics are having a bit of a hard time figuring out what we believe. Not that I believe in God the Father, Almighty, Creator of heaven and earth, I believe in Jesus, right? You know what you believe. But we are having a hard time sharing what we believe with other people who are important to us in life. One of the guys in the Parish Pastoral Council had just recently read the book called The 5 Love Languages. And he had learned from that he and his wife all their married life, had been speaking very different love languages, and they had been unclear as to why they were missing each other's love. So he said, what we need is maybe we need to identify our Catholic faith language. So maybe if we understood how we relate to God and what we love about God and the church, it might help us to express that to others that are important to us in our lives. Thus was born Catholic faith languages. And so those 7 qualities, if you will, or names that are on that page, those are the 7, what I have come to call Catholic faith languages. And they might be helpful to you in identifying what it is. So here's the bigger question. What is it that I love about my Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? I'll say that again. What is it that I love about my Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? I gave a speech a couple weeks ago to the Newman Foundation over in Broadview Heights. It was a big group of people, and I asked that question as I'm asking you. What is it that you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? And a very faithful parishioner of St. Albert the Great was sitting at one of the tables over there. He yells out, Jesus! And of course, I'm in a room of a bunch of religious people. I'm thinking, no. So I said, oh, very good. Wrong. I said, no. And what I meant by wrong is, of course, Jesus is the center of our lives. But that wasn't answering my question. Somebody came up to me after the talk and says, Father, I think that's very true what you're talking about, is that, it really, in our faith, in the Lord, this is what's really important to us. And I nodded at him too, and I said, I think I may have missed the boat. What I'm interested in, and what I think your kids in the 8th grade, the confirmation candidates are interested in, is not what you love about the Christian faith, because that's a lot, but what do you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? Because sisters and brothers, as parents of Catholics and as Catholics yourself, we better find out what it is that we love about our Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church, or I think we're going to lose it. I think we're going to lose it. Because it ought to make a difference to us. So what is it about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? So your experience of the Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church. And I'm thinking, well, it's got to fall into one of these categories. And so you think, what do I love about my Catholic faith? You're all looking at me very kindly and politely, giving me your attention. I'm thinking maybe for some of us, you might say, nothing. Nothing. I'm also afraid that for many of the candidates for confirmation, if I ask them that question, and we are asking them that question, that at the beginning of this process, if I ask them, what do you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? They might look at me like that and go, nothing. Can't think of anything. Can't think of anything that gets me out of bed on Sunday morning and has me enthused to come to celebrate Mass, or has me enthused to go to religion class, or has me enthused to go to service day, whatever the case may be. What is it that you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? And so now we're going to get specific. What is it that you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church here at this Catholic parish of St. Albert the Great? You know? So what is this? What is this Catholic faith that you love? Why is this important? Is because because we're asking your teenagers the same question. And what my opening comment to you is that, here's the secret, right? What you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church here at the Catholic parish is going to be the single most important thing to the formation of your child as a Catholic, and as a candidate for confirmation, as a candidate for holy matrimony, as an adult in the world. So if you don't know, maybe if you're unclear right now, or if you haven't really been thinking about this, what you love about your Catholic faith and lived in the Catholic Church, you see this is going to be a problem. It could be a problem for you to share that love with your teenager. So that's the first challenge, is what is it that I love about my Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church, that I would want to share with my teenager? And second of all, how might I? So the rest of you go, well, I know what I love about my Catholic faith, but I'm having a hard time effectively sharing that with my teenager. So I'm hoping tonight we'll talk about all those things and maybe give you some hints, if you will, about the answers to both of those questions, or the solution to both of those problems. I mentioned our Parish Pastoral Council and this call to share faith, to invite others to love what we loved. Anybody remember Brian Piccolo's I love Brian Piccolo, and I want you to love Brian Piccolo too? Remember Gail Sayers made that speech? Nobody remembers that. 1973, I was at Moody Junior High School. Okay. And we all tried to not let anybody see that we were crying. We were sitting in our desk chairs, when he got to that famous speech at the end of the movie. So this is what I love about my Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church, and I want you to love it too. That was our Everyone Add One. That was our Add One step of holiness, generosity, and kindness. So faith sharing, the ability to know what we love about our faith, and the ability to share it with other people as a form of invitation. So I'm not just sharing this with an obnoxious person at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm sharing it with you because I think you would love it too. We as consumers here, we are great with this. If we find a vitamin pill, a doctor, a tennis shoe, a gym, some vegetables sold in the market or something like that, we are on the phone, we are on the text, we are on the internet, we are in the parking lot, we are sharing, or a good cup of coffee. How about that? Oh my God, you won't believe it. I just had the best cup of coffee. But you know exactly, when you're sitting there drinking that cup of coffee, what's the thought? Says, oh my God, I've got to call and tell them to get over here. I don't know, my aunt used to, anybody remember blue light specials at Kmart? My aunt was, that was the methodology of that thing. Bing, 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 for the next 5 minutes, the blue light specials over here. You got punch bowls, 8-glass punch bowls for $2.50, and you get 4 for $10. Well, she doesn't even drink punch, but she bought 4 of them because she was sure that this is such a great deal. So, my mother ended up with 2 of them. So when we find something that we love, we are anxious to share it with a person that we love and that we think would love it too. That's different than saying, all right, you're going to make your confirmation. Don't look at me that way. Listen, we're going to Mass. Why do I have to go to Mass? I don't care. because you're living in my house, you're eating my food, you're going to church. You know? My father, when I was a teenager, he was the principal of the school. Can you imagine? And so I walked in the school office, and my hair was, we wore our hair longer that day. He walks out and takes a $5 bill, in those times and threw it on the counter in the school thing. He says, don't come home for dinner tonight until that hair's cut. My mother had a fit. I didn't know it, of course, because they would never let me know that they disagreed on methodology or message. But she said, I was deathly afraid you wouldn't come home. I said, you were? And where would I go? Where would I go? So how is it that we can share what's important to us with the people that are important to us in a way that is effective and is maybe attractive? So this is the methodology. This is what we think we're doing here at St. Albert the Great Catholic Church. So one of these parish pastor council meetings, Victor stood up and says, Father, listen, we don't need anybody to teach our kids the catechism. We can teach our kids the catechism. We can read the book. And they can read the book. What we need is somebody to teach us how to share our faith, pass our faith on to our children. Wow, that was a bigger challenge. By the way, you can thank Victor if you'd like for this conference this evening, because this is the outgrowth of that. Let me just tell you a little bit about this influence of parents and the importance of parents on the life and the faith life of their children. So, and this is very fascinating. I found it fascinating. In a book called Soul Searching, this Dr. Christian Smith and his associates from Notre Dame, they analyzed the national survey of the religion of youth. Okay? So it was a big survey, 3,000 kids, and they called these 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds, 3,000 of them, and they interviewed them and asked them all these questions about the faith that they were living in their home. These were Catholics and Jews and Protestants and Muslims and evangelicals and Seventh-day Adventists. It was all religions. So they asked these kids about the practice of their faith in their family and what they believed. Well, the bad news is that the Catholics answered the worst. Out of the 7 religions and groups that they tested, it was the Catholics that came out the worst. Can you imagine the assault to, we spend so much time and energy and resources on educating young people in Catholic education from preschool to college, and it was our kids that could not tell the surveyor what they believed, what they love about their Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church. They just couldn't articulate it. They couldn't articulate it. So they studied these. They also talked to their parents. So they interviewed their parents, and they found out from their parents answers to these questions about the quality of the faith and the manner and the style of the religion lived in their household. Okay? So they not only I found out that the Catholics did as worse, but anyway, they followed these kids and these parents for 5 years. So then they went and they started interviewing these 18 to 23-year-olds or whatever, or 19 to 22-year-olds. And they were really interested in which of those 3,000 kids were practicing the faith of their family as what they call emerging adults. So that was the second book, Souls in Transition. So, and you know what, they found out some very interesting things maybe you're interested in. What is it about the home of a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old that would lead him or her to be practicing the faith of their family 5 years later as a young adult? That is the single greatest influence on the religious life of a young adult was the life of their parents, the faith of their parents in their home. So don't be discouraged, even though they backtalk you and they are moaning and whining about your imposing, if you will, religion on them. Don't think they are not paying attention. So this is the top three things that they found out were causing a young adult to be faithful to the church of his or her youth. Was one. The number 3 answer, parents who say and believe that faith is extremely important in their personal life. So these kids that were practicing as young adults, they knew back when they were 13 that the faith of the family was personally important to the life of their parents. It helped their life. It gave meaning to life. The parents referred often to their faith as the way that they managed life and they handled difficulties. So the faith of the parents, the importance of the faith of the parents in the life of the parents was one of the 3. Number 2, drum roll, parents attended religious services weekly or more. So again, I said we were going to try to affirm and confirm your faith as Catholics. So, we say, oh, well, I don't know how important my faith is to me. At least I don't know how explicitly important my faith is to me as I am trying to manage my daily life, manage my family life, manage my married life, manage my work life. I don't know how important it is or how much it affects me and how I am reflecting on that. 2, am I practicing the faith by attending religious services once a week? The third and this one made the biggest difference. This was like a 70% difference. So of all the people that had, the kids were going to church, all of them had, 70% of them had this feature in addition to the other 2. And that is that the parents talked about religion in the home a few times a week or more. Wow. Now, I don't know about you, but I was raised back in Bedford in the 1970s, and I'm thinking, well, these are a bunch of holy rollers up here, right? These are a bunch of, we used to call them Jesus freaks. Did you guys have any Jesus freaks back in your hometown? These people were, there every Sunday, every Wednesday night, they're going, the Church of the Nazarene, they were really going at it. And then I started thinking about this. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe my folks did live this life. I didn't notice it as a 13-year-old. But now that we look back at it, maybe it was there and I didn't see it. My question for all of you this evening is, can we recognize the importance of our life as Catholic parents in passing on the faith? And it cannot simply be by sending my child to Catholic school, sending my child to PSR class. I know, at least in my generation, that's what people thought was the necessary thing. If you send your kids to make their sacraments, then, I've done my duty, I've done my minimum. What we're finding out is, I don't know about you, but I've been a priest for about 33 years, and if this is the number one complaint that I have heard from people in the church about this subject. Father, listen, I have 6 kids. I sent them 16 years of Catholic education. About broke my back. Catholic college, Catholic high school, Catholic elementary school, and not one of them goes to church today. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I don't know. But now I'm thinking, I don't know if it would be appropriate, probably not to say. I said, well, did you talk about the faith? Did you share your faith at the supper table, in the backyard when you're cleaning up the yard, when you're watching the football game this afternoon? I mean, did you allow your faith to seep into your love of these kids? I said, well, I wouldn't have thought of that until I had read this. So, teenagers knew that their parents' faith was extremely important in their personal lives. So, what is faith? I like this little picture. This dear baby Jesus, So this is a little comical thing about here's this adult, and all of a sudden he decides that, well, I better pray. So, well, how should I pray? Here I am, a big grown-up person. So, oh dear baby Jesus. Okay? So, what is our faith, and have we nurtured our faith beyond second grade? That's another next most often repeated complaint to me about, well, listen, Father, I don't know where you're coming up with this. Sister didn't tell us that, in the second grade. I said, really? Yeah. I said, how old were you when Sister was talking to you? Well, 7. I said, okay. Well, did you really think she was going to get into the creation of the world and, divorce and remarriage or something at the age of 7? Oh, well, I guess maybe not. So, have we nurtured and grown our Catholic faith? What do you love about your Catholic faith? Lived in the Catholic Church. Well, the question is, well, how deeply are we living our Catholic faith in the Catholic Church? So, these parents that were complaining to me about 16 years of Catholic education, I can understand. It's a very frustrating project that they have themselves on, in a sense. If someone had told them that all you have to do is send your child to Catholic school for all these years, and didn't suggest to them these other aspects of a Catholic home in which the parents' faith was important to life and which they were sharing that faith with their children, you can see, well, maybe we should have had this study a long time ago. So, Catholic parents are called to create a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and disinterested service are the rule. So, I don't know about you. I didn't see anything up there about saying prayers before meals, reading from the Bible to each other. Some of the things that we think, oh my God, these people want me to be running a little, storefront church at my, down in the Pine Stream neighborhood. This is what we're saying. Is your religious faith, look at this is the Catechism of the Catholic Church, sisters and brothers. Tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and disinterested service. This is what I'm saying. What do you love about your Catholic Church lived in the Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? Maybe we are not identifying, and I'm saying clergy and laity alike, maybe we are not identifying what is the heart of our Catholic faith. What do you love about the Catholic faith? That's why some of you might be service Catholics. So on your test, you might be a service Catholic. Somebody who relishes the opportunity to do good for others, to take your kids and to serve the hungry, to clothe the naked, to visit nursing homes, and maybe even many more personal manifestations of our Catholic faith. So what is it about our Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church that you love and that gives you meaning? And there's a lot to it, right? I have this pinwheel is a representation, just another representation, of these 7 types of Catholics. So I'm hoping this evening maybe you will see yourself in what we're saying here. And by seeing yourself, you say, yeah, maybe I am. I really am a devotional person. I love the Blessed Virgin Mary. I pray the rosary all the time. I have a little shrine in my backyard. I really, when I'm in trouble, I go light a candle before the shrine of the Blessed Mother, so that I'm really a devotional Catholic. I'm not so much on service. I'm not so much on teaching and adult education. And I'm not so much on... the Mass prayers are boring for me or something, or I'm distracted. So, maybe this is a way to understand how you are a Catholic. What do you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? And how could you share that? If you knew it better, if you appreciated it more, how might that help you to share it with those who mean the most to you? This Dr. Christian Smith, who did the study and came up with those things, he is the person that has contributed to this workbook, which is on top of your packet, the Strong Catholic Families, Strong Catholic Youth. What I love about this thing is it's available on the internet, so that's not the only one you have to have. This is a very, very practical guide for people like you and me. Because I'm up here talking, what do you love about the Catholic life, blah, 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 blah. These people are saying, okay, this might be a help to you in building a Catholic home. It's not complicated. It's very clear. They give many examples. They have even a little questionnaire in there. So there are many ways that if you are interested in deepening the Catholicity, the faith-based nature of your home, I think that that outline could really help you. So because we believe that the Catholic home is a concrete experience of communion. So there we are again. You might say, well, I thought Holy Communion was what we shared up in church and Mass. We're going to Holy Communion. I didn't realize that communion that we celebrate upstairs is really what we are supposed to be living and sharing in our home. So that home, a Catholic home, is a concrete experience of communion of life and love, which is God. We have some challenges in the Catholic home, and I hope I'm not being glib or anything. We have some temptations in our society and in the contemporary life that gets us away from building a Catholic home of communion. Catholic home is concrete experience. A temptation is to identify our Catholic home as simply shared space. We're like boats in the marina. So that, the boats, they pull into their slips, and they are very close. They can even be touching. We put those little bumpers between on a boat, over the side of a boat, to stop it from banging into anybody else. So we can be very close to one another in the same space and not be sharing life, not be sharing communion together. So that, maybe your home, it's temptation that, we're just kind of, like a Motel 6, with a common refrigerator, And so that's one temptation. Another temptation against the Catholic home is shared busyness. This is a beehive. Isn't this gross? These are the larvae in a beehive, but that's the hexagonal beehive. These creatures are very close to one another, and they are very busy. But so, it's like a beehive. This place is really hot. I guess like an anthill would be another, but ants don't sleep in little stalls like this. So I'm thinking, so we can share a busy life. Our lives, our family lives now are so scheduled. So not to mention mom and dad's both work schedules. I was just talking to people all the time. They are leaving every day, every week on Tuesday and coming back on Friday. One spouse and the other spouse. Incredible. And I know this is your life, and it's challenging. But we can replace communion with busyness. So let's get the schedule. Everybody, and of course, athletics is the new kind of religion in our society, and they are particularly helpful. Just a little experience of people being at the table and even, the family meal, right, fine. But in this rather humorous thing, Dad is on his device. And, I just did a workshop on suicide grief recovery. And the counselor, the grief counselor that was doing this with me, she was sharing a latest statistic that the average teenager is spending 5 hours of screen time a day. And when they have that much screen time a day, they have ideation and conversation about suicide 58% higher than young people that don't. And she said, if you can reduce the screen time to less than 2 hours a day, so it's not like you got to become Amish people, but if you to just 2 hours a day, it reduces it by 58%. So if your child is becoming despondent, distant, depressive, isolated, unhappy, try it. Take the phone away from them give it to them a little reward if they sit up at the table and smile at you. All right. Another temptation is to hide from one another in plain view. Mentioning we had tragically several suicides in the last 18 months here, and in 3 out of the 4 for sure, the parents and the spouse were completely unsuspecting. And so in the note that was left, the victim of the suicide revealed that they had this terrible anguish, terrible brain disorders, terrible personal pain. And they were living right there, right next to each other. They were hiding in plain view. So these are temptations, and our society promotes it rather than discourages it. Our church should be the antidote for this. And our faith should be the antidote for this. So if a Catholic faith is not being handed on in the home, by the parents sharing faith, it most often does not happen by any other means attempted. So parents are teacher, pastor, mentor, witness, narrator, and interpreter in faith and in life. So I mentioned parents, the second feature of this is parents attended religious services weekly or not. I think we're going to, what do you love about your Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? So you have to say, well, what do I believe? What is it in my life that gives me meaning, in my faith that gives my meaning to my life? And some of you might say, well, really, my participation as a Catholic is not permeating the walls of the church or maybe the walls of the school. So I come to church, I pray, maybe I even minister there. But in my daily life, in my home, that activity, that relationship, that membership isn't giving me, it's not providing me anything for life. And I'm only here to say this, it's supposed to. I understand that, and I'm not a stranger to that. But I am here to say we have the opportunity to allow the Lord God and His Son Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit to permeate life inside these walls and to transform our family life, our personal lives. And it's only then that we could have anything to share with our kids. So there's an old Latin phrase, I don't know Latin, but I know this one. It says, you cannot give what you do not have. So if, I'm standing here encouraging you to share your faith with your teenager so that the teenager might have something to hold on to as they enter into adulthood. I fully understand. Many of you may say, oh, I don't know not only how I would share my faith, I'm not sure about what I believe. Sisters and brothers, this is the whole point of this, is that if I could encourage you to join me on the journey of deepening our faith. I just was teaching Bible study here for the last year and a half. I can't tell you how much my faith has grown in that 1 year out of that one thing. I didn't expect it to happen. But I went out on a limb, and I dedicated myself to it, and the people with me, a whole bunch of people with me, and we had a transformative experience. But we have to, one, identify it as a value, and two, make the sacrifice to make it happen. I'm not saying you have to come to Bible study, but it's never too late. It's never too late to deepen our faith. So, what is it that I love about my Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church? So, here was the number one thing. Parents talked about religion in the home a few times a week. Now, I don't know about you, but immediately I'm thinking, you mean like what they have Bible study at the house? You know? I've heard of some people that they pray the family rosary. You know, maybe dad or mom. I don't know about the family dinner. That's the other thing. That also decreases the stats on adolescent depression and suicide ideation, and et cetera, is a family meal. And they're saying just even once a week. I know it's not easy, but so maybe a dad says, you know, you can't leave the table until you tell me something you learned. You know, that old gag. So maybe I'm thinking, well, how are these people supposed to be sharing their faith with their children? I want to tell you a story about Ashley Smith. I don't know if you remember back in the late 1990s, 1998, she was abducted in Atlanta, Georgia, and her abductor barricaded her and himself in her apartment. And they were in there, and the police were all outside and that kind of stuff, and she said to her captor, would you mind if I read to you from this book? And the book was on her coffee table. It's called A Purpose-Driven Life. It was written by Rick Warren, who is the Saddleback mega pastor from out in California. And the guy says, yeah, okay, go ahead. So she goes to her favorite passage. So there's something she loved about her life and her faith in the church. And she picked up that book and she went to her favorite passage. So she found the words that were that meant the most to her. So even if they weren't hers, she knew where to go to get them. And so she read from that page to that man. And by that simple act of sharing her faith at a critical interpersonal moment with someone she had access to, he not only let her go, he turned himself in. So let's look at what she did. She loved her faith in the church, and it wasn't a Catholic church. She found words to share effectively about that faith. And she took the opportunity of a critical interpersonal moment to share her faith with someone she had access to. That's a weird way to think about your captor, is that I have access to this guy. Matter of fact, the SWAT team guy was out there. He was trying to get access to him. But he didn't have access to him. She had access to him. And so what did she do? She used her faith that she loved, and she used the words that meant something to her about that faith that she loved, and she took this critical interpersonal moment and she shared them because she had access to him. At the Parish Pastoral Council meeting, just this past, a couple months ago, we were having a very serious conversation about the sex abuse crisis in the Catholic Church and how could we as a parish and I as a pastor respond to this crisis and what people are feeling in their minds and their hearts. And Annetta told us a story about a friend of hers who had a child, 20-year-old child in college, and the child calls the mother up. Okay? Mother says, Mom, this is a disaster what's happening in the Catholic Church. She says, I am never going to step foot in a Catholic church again. 20-year-old girl, daughter, 40-year-old mother. And the mother and Annetta and Father Estock all said, we didn't know what to say. And maybe you wouldn't know what to say either. Remember what Ashley did. She remembered what she loved about her Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church. I'm just going to put words in her mouth. She found words that could express effectively what it is that she loved about her Catholic faith. And she took the opportunity of a critical interpersonal incident to go ahead and share that faith because she had access to the person. I mean, the girl's right on the phone. So I'm thinking, well, maybe she could have said, well, honey, I understand you're upset and I understand what you're saying, but I just want you to know what I love about my Catholic faith, living in the Catholic Church, and why I would never leave the Catholic Church is because we're not arguing with her. I'm just sharing my faith. Sisters and brothers, this is what I'm wondering about our lives of faith and the opportunity we have to share our faith with our children, especially our teenagers. And that is that, okay, maybe you're not big on the family rosary. Maybe you're not big on the Bible study, at the dinner table. But I'm wondering, how many critical interpersonal conversations have you had with your teenager in the last 7 days? How many have you had in the last month? A critical interpersonal conversation with this young person. I don't care if it's about the boyfriend. I have no friends. I didn't make the school play. I got cut from the basketball team. I'm overweight. I don't like my hair. Whatever the critical interpersonal moment was and conversation was. So my question, I'm seeing as an opportunity, and maybe you have seen this before. Did you bring your faith into that conversation? Did you see that as an opportunity and someone you have access to by which you might witness to the power of God in your life? I'd like you to think about that. That's what I've been thinking about. You don't have to know the Catechism of the Catholic Church to tell your child, and the last thing is, honey, we should do always, let's pray about this. Let's ask God to help us. Let's study. Let's go over this again. We're going to study the thing. We're going to study for the test. But don't forget, I always pray before I go into a big meeting at work. Sometimes my boss says things that are really hurtful. They hurt my feelings. People don't like what I did or didn't think. I have to forgive them. And I have to examine my conscience. Did I do my best? And am I using my gifts that God has given me? So are we men and women of faith, especially at these critical moments in life? That's what I'm thinking that the experts and the Holy Spirit is calling us to. If you would join me in taking out a form in your packet that is the worksheet on one side, and there's a description of the personal faith statement. So it says, speaking of faith on the top, on the front, and on the back there are 5 questions. It's a little worksheet. I don't want to be pedantic about this or make you do something that you don't want to do, but I'm wondering if I have asked this question 20 times already. Say, what is it that I love about my Catholic faith lived in the Catholic Church? I'm thinking maybe you've thought of something while we were talking about this. I would recommend that you consider maybe the answer to the questionnaire that we took at the beginning. Maybe the thing you love about your Catholic faith, lived in the Catholic Church, has something to do with the area in which you scored the highest on the quiz, and the little sample of the quiz. What I'm just for exercise sake, if you would look at the third question, is that right? Yes, 1, 2, 3. It's called the point. Would you take a chance, and you're not going to have to share this with anybody, so don't be worried about it. Would you take the chance to jot yourself a note, no matter how code language it might be? And what is it that you love about your Catholic faith, live in the Catholic Church? We are going to be asking your confirmation candidates this question over the next, over the next 6 months, of course. And we are going to be investigating those 7 Catholic faith languages, because that really is a mosaic of our Catholic Church and our Catholic faith. So, that's the first piece that you might complete on that worksheet. There are 2 pieces above and 2 pieces below, and so I would like to draw your attention, just for an exercise on this paper, to the 4th question, which is the partner. I guess I'd like you to think of your confirmation candidate as your partner in this conversation. So I'm not even saying you have to have it, but if you were going to have a conversation with your confirmation candidate, maybe you could take a moment to think about what kind of a Catholic your confirmation candidate is. You know, we've talked about being morality Catholic, or a service Catholic, or a devotional Catholic, or a worshiping Catholic, or a teaching Catholic, a community Catholic. What do you think of that young person as you consider them, as well as you know them? Once you have identified what it is that is most important to you about your Catholic faith, live in the Catholic Church, and you've considered this teenager in front of you, so kind of figuratively, what is it that you think, how was it that your child would benefit from knowing the answer to number 3? So how would it, if you were going to share your faith with this confirmation candidate, how do you think it would benefit them? Why would you bother? I'm presuming you know this kid very well, and I'm presuming that the most important thing about your Catholic faith might benefit this child because you're worried about them in a certain way. You have hopes for this child. So how would this child benefit from knowing about your... I would just encourage you to consider all these theories and sociological studies and recommendations, and consider your faith, your Catholic faith, and consider the opportunity that you have with your child to make a huge difference and have a huge impact on their lives as Catholic adults. If you only would become more confident and more comfortable in sharing your faith with them. So maybe as a result of this evening, you might say, you know what, Father, I think I got this down. Thanks for the talk, but we got this covered. And I would say, well, hallelujah, that's great. Some of you might say, wow, I didn't know that about the cell phone and how we are kind of ships in the night in our family. And I think we ought to take a look at this little handbook and figure out how we might create opportunities and occasions and experiences of communion in our family. You might be thinking with me about the difficult conversations you've had with your teenager in the last couple of weeks, and say, yeah, I guess he's right. I never have brought my faith into my conversation with him about cleaning his room or not talking back to his mother, or, I just didn't dawn on me that these are many opportunities that we have to share our faith with our kids, because in those conversations we can reveal to them what the role of faith is in our adult life, how faith helps us to manage life, how faith helps us to make sense out of the suffering of life, how faith can help us to live these imperfect, broken, human condition lives of ours by lessening the suffering in the world, by reducing the evil in the world. This is all the project we have, and you have the greatest access to these young people. And as the opening comments tonight mentioned, they are listening. They are listening to you. They are looking at you. They are studying you. And my question and encouragement to you today is, let them see the whole you. And we as Catholics, for some reason, are not so comfortable in revealing our religious self to them. So it's no wonder when somebody asks them what they believe and what does their faith mean to them in daily life. I don't know. We have to go to church. If we don't go to church, we have a mortal sin. If we've got a mortal sin, we're going to go to hell. Oof, that's pretty dreadful motivation. That's pretty dreadful motivation. So, and then some of you might want to go ahead and complete this questionnaire, and you will find maybe deeper insight into what kind of a Catholic you really are. And a secret about the little test is you probably had a score that was very low, like some negative twos. So you might be saying, I would like to deepen my faith. I would like to be a better Catholic or something like that. I would recommend to you go to the subjects or the topics that you scored the worst on. So maybe you got your great +2 on service, +2 on community, but down here on devotion, no, that was a -2. Maybe you ought to say, maybe I ought to learn how to pray the rosary again. Maybe I ought to stop by the Adoration Chapel once a week. Maybe I ought to add some devotional enrichment to my life. Although I'm not attracted to it, it may very well be the place where I might grow most easily. So we don't only want to know what we are attracted to, we also want to know what we are maybe discouraged by, and maybe we can be intentional about growing our faith in that direction. So in all of it, sisters and brothers, I was hoping to accomplish these 4 things. I'm going to go back to the top. And maybe you don't have to answer me, or you don't have to let me know by acclamation or booing or anything, but I just hope you know how much respect I have of you and how powerful your role is in the formation and the religious formation of your teenagers. They are watching you, they are loving you, and even though they're frowning at you and making ugly faces at you, they are learning from you how to love God. Yeah. So that is the first thing. The second is, can we have an appreciation of the critical opportunity that Catholic family life is for building faith. Sometimes we as Catholics have decided that the church and the school are the place where faith is shared. I'm hoping to open maybe your hearts to the notion that, no, the place where Catholic faith is really sown is in the Catholic home, by Catholic parents with their Catholic children. So please don't despair. I know it seems like chaos probably a lot of the time, but this is the church of the home. And God is present there and is leading your family into the palm of his hand. So you can grow this. You know, this can be grown. Please hear my invitation to grow your own faith. So, God is not done with me yet, and I'm presuming God is not done with any of you. This Catholic parish, this Catholic church, in spite of, this is really a terrible time in the Catholic Church, you know, in the news and in the reality of it all. However, the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church is a powerful means of personal transformation and faith. So please take advantage of this opportunity to clarify your faith and to grow it. And finally, to promote the practice of faith sharing with your children. It seems to me to be the key or the way to a full life for you, but also for your kids. And as a matter of fact, their faith depends on it. Their faith depends on it. So maybe you can try some of these more subtle ways of sharing your faith, what you love about your Catholic faith, live in the Catholic Church, with your children, especially in this year as they are preparing for confirmation and moving into high school. I'm thinking it's only going to get more challenging before it gets better, but I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic. Maybe this notion of faith sharing, and it's the project God has given us. So it is not a burden to raise children. He says, because he doesn't have any. It is not only a burden to raise children. It's a privilege, of course, we know that. But it is also an opportunity. And sometimes, I know in my challenges as father of the community and father of the church, I don't always perceive the challenges in front of me as opportunities. I can sometimes be discouraged by them. So let's be of good faith, and let's support one another in this great project that God has given us, and that is the faith and the life of our children, our most precious